Chair. As we know, criminal justice system is one of the core functions of the government to protect people's rights to life, liberty, and property. As a former state legislator, I believe there are a lot of things that states are doing, and sometimes it seems to me that there is a redundancy with federal crimes, and also it makes it more complicated. When the system gets complicated, it's kind of stuck against the people who don't have the money. And maybe that's why it's good to have some CPAs, not just attorneys in these committees, but it's definitely a learning curve for me. And I appreciate your input. It's important that punishment does fit the crime. And as one of my retired judges in my state told me, you know, Victoria, since we don't put people in jails for life, it's important that we rehabilitate and provide second chances to people. It's also important that we have a prevention. So I would like to get, and maybe Mr. Malcolm, you kind of discuss sentencing and the proposed bills. Do you have any thoughts also on the probation and supervised release mechanism within the federal system? As a federal prosecutor, give me some insights. Is there some things maybe could be improved there to provide more people opportunities? Because I think it's extremely important that we have this mechanism that get people back into really be valuable and productive members of the society.
You've raised a number of important points during your remarks just now. You've talked about the over-federalization of crime, where there are duplicative laws among federal and states, which dilutes accountability and also takes scarce federal resources and diverts them into matters that have traditionally been left to the states. You know, with respect to probation, people who are returning citizens after they have been incarcerated, I think it's important that, you know, the scarce resources in terms of probation officers are focused on people who are most likely to recidivate. I think that we have a problem with too many technical violations returning people to prison too quickly. And then on the flip side, you'll get people who are repeatedly make violations and who are not dealt with in a timely manner, and before you know it, they have returned fully to a life of crime. Professor Barkow, actually, in her opening remarks, talked about a problem of collateral consequences that are imposed upon people who are released, that make it extremely difficult for them to reintegrate into society and become law-abiding members of society, you know, productive and being support to their family. So part of the probation parole process is also trying to make it easier by easing up on some of these collateral consequences to make it so that they have an opportunity to become productive members of society.
Any comments you have on supervised release?
Well, look, supervised release is, there's no problem having supervised release. I wouldn't necessarily say that it is a substitute for incarceration, but for certain nonviolent felons, depending on the circumstances of their offense, depending on the circumstances of their home life and their criminal history. So I know you're considering bills with respect to caretakers. Supervised release is certainly an option, as are alternative sentencing mechanisms. A lot of states have things like drug courts, veteran courts, mental health courts. These are all things that are worthy of exploration, and so long as the phrase evidence-based studies, so long as this is all evidence-based, I think these are all worthy of consideration and possible legislative changes.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.